Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brock Beard from LastCar.info, and welcome to Behind the Wall, the post-race show that comes on after the race. Unofficially, pending the post-race inspection, Ryan Blaney has pulled off yet another victory here on a fantastic day for the Ford teams. We saw Josh Berry run very well, being the first driver to drive for the Wood brothers and score 4 consecutive top 10s since Morgan Shepherd back in 94, I believe they said the stat was. Just incredible on that there too. Lots of storylines to get into, lots of other stories from the weekend to catch up on here as well. And on top of all this, I'm trying something different here with the camera that's a little bit lower on the screen, so it might look a little different this week. We're going to give that a try and see if this works. And if it doesn't work, we'll go back to the other camera next week. Oh, we should get the screen updated. How about we do that? Let's fix this. That's last week's graphic. Let's go here and there. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now we're up to date. All right. So yeah, still playing around with things here a little bit, but yes, hope you had a wonderful weekend. There was certainly no shortage of racing or stories this past week. We'll do our best to cover that. This camera is lower. I keep looking up where it used to be, and I'm looking lower here. I'm hopeful that this will make it different, but we'll adjust there anyway. Regardless, Ryan Blaney with another phenomenal run out there in New Hampshire, and a nice long green flag run to the end to see how it was all going to play out. I think that was very interesting to see the way all that worked out there at the end. Bubba Wallace gave it a tremendous run out there. Had a couple good charges there to try to get back up to the 12 team. Just did not quite work out there at the end. Smoked the brakes at one point there. But even then, recovered from that very well. I think both of them navigated traffic very well and made a very interesting show there. So a great job by the both of them there. But again, Blaney leading 115 of the 301 laps to pull off the victory there with Bubba Wallace in second, and Josh Berry in third, showing that his runner-up performance there to Joey Logano or to Blaney last year was no fluke. He was absolutely phenomenal in this race. One of the, again, number of great runs that he's on here, even after the news of him leaving the Wood brothers and Jesse Love coming on board. He has just kicked into gear and been really impressive there. He was great in this one. It looked like even a possibility of pulling off the win there too. Was able to lead the race for 73 of the laps. I believe that's the second most of anybody. I would think it would be there with Blaney leading that many others there as well. Did a great job out there, and that was so good to see. I know that the Wood brothers are basically another Penske team there with the way that's all worked out, but regardless, plugged into that history for as much as they've been involved in this sport and at a track where they've never won, the possibility of actually pulling off a win there would be great. And, again, tale of two seasons. Last year, Josh Berry had the 3 straight last place finishes that eliminated him from the first round of the playoffs, and then came back to almost finish last in that race after a spin on the backstretch and come back to finish in second. This time around, a much smoother race for him, very consistently up there. Hard-fought third-place finish there as well. Christopher Bell did not pull off the win. He was one person I was thinking of picking for going into this, and I think a lot of people were looking at him, too, to be the place that he would break through to get his first win of the season. Of course, for how good he's been in pretty much every series out there. We didn't really see as much of him in this one, which was very surprising. I expected him to be much more of a factor. I don't know if how much of that was the bad weather at the beginning, although we saw Christopher run very well in the damp race there and one of his victories there in the past. But this one here just wasn't quite the same story, and he ends up with a 4th place finish there at the same time. Kyle Larson also, driver who's kind of the opposite of Bell, who has struggled at New Hampshire more often than not in his career. Qualified well in the 9th spot, finished in 5th, led 18 laps there. Again, a solid run there on what's been kind of an off year for him, certainly, in the analysis of this at the same time. Looking further back, Ty Gibbs looked very strong as well, finished in the 6th spot there. Denny Hamlin in 7th, coming back from the opening lap tangle with the pole sitter Tyler Reddick spinning out on the damp track there as well. Reddick himself coming back to finish in the 8th spot. Ryan Preece was phenomenal. One of the best runs he's had since winning the Clash. finishing in the ninth spot. I expected Priest to really be good at Iowa and was watching him a couple weeks ago there. Didn't turn out to be the case there this time around, but regardless, I think put together a fine showing in this one, battling into the top 5 at points, leading those laps there as well. And then right behind him, I'm so happy for Noah Gragson pulling off that run in the opening laps of this race. He was at the very tail end of the field. We saw him back there with Cody Ware running around the 35th spot right when Reddick was trying to come back from his early spin and kind of work his way through the field. The 4-car was right back there, but man, they put together just a tremendous rally there after qualifying in the 19th spot, getting up there into the 10th place finish. And just an amazing job there too. And yes, I see the mention here in the chat as well for the great recovery there and being able to build on the contract extension there with Front Row Motorsports. I know there were a lot of questions about that given how much he struggled from one team to the next. You know, we saw that with Stewart Haas Racing. We saw that with the Legacy Motor Club there as well, trying to find his rhythm out there. But regardless, he did a fine job out there and was, again, very, very surprised. I didn't expect this to be a track that he would show, really well. And of course, he performed well here in the O'Reilly series. He performed well at a number of different tracks, Martinsville and Darlington and others as well. But man, I'm very happy for him there as well, especially having seen the interview that he did with Chase Briscoe earlier this year on the Junior Download. I think revealed a lot about, what he's been dealing with behind the scenes there. But just pulling up his stats here at the same time, only his second top 10 finish of the season. He was 9th back at Talladega in the spring, which is his best finish of the year. Still looking for his first top 5 since the Talladega race in the spring of 25 when he was in the 4th place spot there for the number 4 team. So great run there for him. I think he was very impressive in this one. I didn't even see that he was getting back into the top 10 until the closing laps of this thing. And so that was definitely a great story to cover there, and very happy for him on that too. Further back, Brad Keselowski and Austin Cindric just outside the top 10. Zane Smith got some screen time in this race too. Again, he's been hot and cold this year. We've seen some great runs. We've seen some bad runs there as well. But this one here, he worked his way, towards the front of the field there. Didn't lead any laps, but finished on the lead lap at the 13th spot, finishing ahead of Joey Logano. Given the fact that Logano's history at this track here, a fine showing there as well for him. Going further back, you got drivers that struggled more at the end, including drivers like Carson Hocevar and Shane Van Gisbergen that were lapped in the closing stages of the race. And even further back to other drivers with late race pit stops that dropped them back. We saw Chase Briscoe battling for the lead with Ryan Blaney in the closing stages there, ends up having to settle with a 26th place finish. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. got some damage in an early accident, tried to get back into the top 15 on a rally of his own there, but ends up with a 28th place finish. Cody Ware back in the 29th spot. Hard crash for William Byron with a loose wheel. Undoubtedly, that's going to be an issue for the Hendrick team coming up there with the penalties stemming from that. But glad to see Byron able to drive away from that accident after leading 26 laps in the early stages of this race here as well. And then further back, you got the other tangles that happened here at the same time. Brutal accident. I mean, again, we saw some very serious accidents, especially in turns 3 and 4. Certainly the Byron accident and certainly the Riley Herbst accident. So good to see those drivers able to climb out of those cars there as well. Of course, Byron able to continue on there and finish the race a few laps down there. But a very brutal hit there for Riley Herbst after tangling with Michael McDowell. Connor Zilic getting collected in that as well. Just the terrible luck that he's had this season. Zilic looked very good at the beginning of this race, seemed to be matching his teammate Shane Van Gisbergen there as they were kind of trying to stay among the leaders there as well. Just unfortunately didn't quite work out there at the end of that one there too. Gets collected and ends up your next to last place finisher. And your last place finisher is another Trackhouse injury in Ross Chastain. This is his first last place finish of the season. First for the number 1 car at New Hampshire, and it now means that each of the 3 Trackhouse racing entries have each finished last in at least one Cup race in the 2026 season. So make of that what you may there as well. But unfortunately, a drivetrain issue, some smoke behind the right front wheel right before the caution when they were going to change over to the dry weather tires, sent him back behind the wall. Looked like they were going to try to fix the issue. Unfortunately, it proved to be terminal, and it was a very short afternoon. About 57 laps into the race, NASCAR declared him out. And for most of the race, he was about the only DNF. We had very, very low attrition until the later stages of this race, between the Zilich and Herbst accidents, the mechanical issues that Eric Jones had, and other drivers struggling further back in the pack there too. But, a solid race. It's been kind of a bizarre stretch of this season that we've had, certainly. Between Indianapolis and then coming up to Daytona next week for the regular season finale. Having, Iowa and New Hampshire and Richmond as well. Kind of very similar tracks in some respects, very similar kind of racing, strategy based, especially at Richmond and New Hampshire there. I think probably the biggest thing we've seen out of that stretch is the resurgence of Penske, the same thing that's been building since Joey Logano had that great run over at North Wilkesboro and won the race out there. They've really been rallying, and what seemed to be a Toyota dominant season between Denny Hamlin and Tyler Reddick. We've seen Reddick really struggle. He continued to struggle today, even with the recovery and the 8th place finish. But also, seeing the Penske guys really figuring it out. And, Blaney looks very strong, and he's charging his way back up there too. And Joey Logano, a bit more off today with the 14th place finish, but, despite the fact that he had some damage there, salvaging the best run he could too. That'll be another one to look at the same time. Again, solid race there as well. Carson Hocevar got the fastest lap bonus with a 29.81, according to NASCAR.com here. He was the first car off the lead lap in the 19th place position there at the checkered flag. And so that was the story there as well. The article, pending post-race inspection, will be on Ross Chastain, and that'll be up later this evening. Again, solid weekend there at the New Hampshire track there. We had the modifieds, the modified tour out there as well. And, of course, the Truck Series from yesterday. Congratulations to Lane Riggs for winning from the pole, but it was a very hard-fought battle there. A number of multi-truck and single-truck incidents that happened at the same time. Your last-place finisher in that race was Spencer Boyd, who was about the 3rd or 4th different driver to get involved in an incident. I appreciate Boyd for reaching out and actually clarifying that it wasn't just a single truck incident, that he was sent around by another driver, specifically Cullen Brown getting into him in turns 3 and 4. I've updated the article that was posted yesterday, and I appreciate Spencer for reaching out. He's always great to talk to. I've run into him a number of times at Phoenix and at San Diego earlier this year. Did a feature on his driver Nathan Nicholson earlier this season that's also linked in the article from yesterday. I hate to see them struggle, but the positive thing is that it's really been a couple of years since they've even had a last place finish. And I think that speaks to some improvements from that program there as well. Just an unfortunate afternoon, but also it's good to see that their sponsor got a lot of attention there during the broadcast. One of the few things that the Fox Sports broadcast seemed to do right there in the Truck Series race there, and mentioning the Granite State de-icing supply sponsorship native to the New Hampshire state there as well. So kudos to them on that. Patrick Emmerling, Chris Wright, Gavin Bichelle, and Landon Lewis rounding out your bottom 5. Gavin having quite the rough week as well. Looked to be on his way to getting 2 straight top 10 finishes in the Truck Series after his amazing debut. I believe it was at IRP. Looking very strong out there. Coming back in this race here, was battling for one again. Unfortunately got involved in an incident, a very hard incident that he has since said injured. He left him with some bruises on his leg and his foot. Fortunately, nothing broken, at least apparently from the reports here. Went back out and ran the ARCA race today in Springfield. Unfortunately, gets involved in another incident there, battling for the lead, and gets dumped by the eventual race winner, Max Reeves, and was none too happy about it. You'll see the video certainly retweeted on my account, among others as well, that was very unhappy with the way it turned out. So it ended up being a rather frustrating weekend for Gavin there between both the ARCA and the Truck Series as well. But regardless, he's one of the drivers that I think has been very impressive of the recent group that's coming in. I'm excited to see what they can do in future races. And we saw this very much with the finishing results here. Tristan McKee, very close to getting a top 5 finish in his second series start after getting a top 10 recently here as well, driving the Spire Motorsports car, or truck rather. Already the heir apparent to Michael McDowell's ride in the Cup Series when McDowell steps out of that car in the Cup Series, making very bold moves through the circuit. I'll be curious to see how much he can keep that kind of performance going next season, depending on what ride he's going to land next year. I imagine things are still coming together there on that. But a sixth place finish, even with all the chaos and the multiple overtime finishes, was a fine job out there. And Parker Eatman, a driver that I've brought up here a couple times since his great debut that he had at Rockingham, at least his qualifying debut, this time around gets his first top 10 finish of his own career in his fifth series start. Fine job out of him and the Nice Motorsports team. Obviously, when you think of the Nice team, you think of Ross Chastain making some starts there in the truck this year. You also think about how close they came to winning the truck race at San Diego before the miscue there on the final lap. But in this case here, again, Eatman was very strong in that one, finishing on the lead lap and right up there too. And also give a call to Mike Christopher Jr., who after getting his first top 10, I believe at IRP as well, gets into a third truck for the Holmar Friesen effort with a throwback scheme to his late uncle, Ted Christopher, the great Busch North and modified winning driver there. Made many starts over at the New Hampshire track there as well. It's great to see those colors back out there and having a solid run. Very close to getting into their top 10 there. Ends up with a 12th place finish there at the same time. So a fine showing out of him there as well. Yeah, I mean, I know we had the championship deal there. That was the regular season finale. We saw some dramatics there as well about who was able to try to kind of get back in the mix. Ultimately, get Tyler Ankrum in a 16th place finish, being just enough to get back in to the championship contention for the McAnally team and the number 18 effort. So we'll see what they can do next month when the Truck Series returns after 3 consecutive off weekends that are be coming up here before they return to action under the lights at Bristol. So that will be something to see as well. Can Lane Riggs continue the momentum that he has already firmly established this year? It's wonderful to see Lane doing as well as he has been doing this year. Obviously, last year with Corey Heim and the dominance that he showed, he was just in a class of his own. And Caden Honeycutt's been a very strong replacement and has followed up his own great performance there as the relief driver over at the Hallmark team to have a great season here in the number 11 truck. But Lane Riggs has just kind of been in his own galaxy. Even when the 71 with Zilich was leading as much of the truck race as it was, and it was a great run for him, and good to see Zilich get some of his confidence there back. I think that was reflected very well in the opening of this Cup race. Unfortunately, the race did not turn out certainly the way that he would have wanted. But even then, Lane was far ahead of third place, even at that point there, when he was running in second. I think that just speaks to what a great program they have over at Front Row Motorsports. Bouncing back, winning the championship with Zane Smith a few years ago, and looking very strong. I remember when Lane came in, and he was the really impressive driver, driving for the Hallmark Friesen effort and getting some good runs out there. But again, he had that one season where just things didn't really pick up until he had already been eliminated from the playoffs. Now this year, it's just completely turned everything on its head, and it's really impressive to see. I know there's obviously questions about where he's going to go after this year, but I think at this point, he's probably not thinking about that too much. I think he's just thinking about locking in that Truck Series championship. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging, even at Bristol, which is a race that has traditionally come and gone very quickly. It's one of the fastest paced races on the truck schedule. It always seems like it's over in about 45 minutes, it feels like. And if you have any kind of issues there, or if you have a poor qualifying run, you can find yourself in trouble, very quickly. And with the current chase format being what it is, with no regroupings and all that other stuff there, that could really turn things around. So hopefully he has a strong start. It can build that up, because it's going to be a strong pursuing pack right in there with guys, like Honeycutt and like the other drivers that are in the mix there at the same time. So it'll be exciting to follow on that coming up here in the meantime too. So Yeah, I got to say, solid weekend in New Hampshire. This is a track that Lastbro is very keen on. He went out there with my dad there a few years ago and had a great time. And it looked like they had a great crowd on hand. Very busy. I love the brand activation that Dollar Tree put into this weekend. Having both the cars at the Legacy Motor Club sponsored by the team, the company, sponsoring their recognizing their 40th anniversary. The car number change for John Hunter Nemechek in the Cup Series, and Nemechek himself running in the Truck Series. I thought the paint scheme on his truck for the Tricon Garage effort actually looked really cool. I thought that was a pretty neat paint scheme there on the Tricon Garage deal. I thought it looked pretty cool on that model of vehicle there as well. Unfortunately, it got torn up a bit, and John Hunter had a really rough day out there in both races this weekend, and it's been on a rough stretch. I know Eric Estep made comments about Nemechek's recent trend there, and I'm tending to agree with that there too. He's just after last year, and he had some of those great runs in the spring and early summer. It's just not been the same deal this year, and I don't know what the situation is, but we saw that today in the Cup race where he spun out about 20 laps in. Checking out the replay, he actually slid up the track and actually bounced off the wall. Thought he got into Denny Hamlin. There wasn't really any contact between the two of them at the time. I know that Hamlin was right behind Nemechek when he got up the track, but regardless, it ended up really, screwing up his day. He lost 2 laps before the caution came out, lost another 3 to get the toe link replaced, still finished the race under power, but looking at the results here, still back in the 31st spot at the checkered flag and 5 laps down. So ultimately not losing another lap at the finish, which is, again, solid. It shows that they made the teams good. They're able to make the right repairs and keep him out there without losing even more time. But obviously not the kind of performance he wanted, certainly in his sponsor's race there too. So that would be another one to talk about at the same time. Yeah, so kind of hopping around a little bit here on the show today. I think overall, I think it's been a nice progression these last few weeks. I wasn't really a big fan of the Iowa race a couple weeks ago. I felt that one, as much as I like it when drivers have to really, manhandle these cars and try to manipulate them around a very difficult track, I found the racing itself not very good. I think Richmond was getting better last week. I liked the strategy. I think it would seem to be more compelling. And I think this race was even better than that because, my goodness, it had everything thrown at it, from the wet weather at the beginning to the incidents that happened in the middle stages, and then a long green flag run at the end where everybody's just hanging on. And, those kind of runs separate the men from the boys in this case. So that was definitely the case in this one. I imagine probably a lot of the field there was pretty exhausted by the end of this one here for sure. As for the rain tires, again, kudos to NASCAR for making some adjustments along the way. Obviously, when you're looking at, weather reports throughout the week, it's going to be tricky to actually, try to get that right because things are going to change all the time. The technology is better now than it's ever been, I would think. But I appreciate them making the move initially to move the race up an hour, anticipating that there's probably going to be some more rain in the afternoon. And then having the wet weather tires and just going forward with getting the cars out there. I think that one other storm that they were in the middle of when they were starting the race, they were probably thinking it was going to be not quite as serious as it was. Unfortunately, it turned out to be much heavier than it turned out to, than I'm sure they thought it was going to be. Carson Hocevar spinning out his car during the pace laps, and at that point calling it off. I'm glad they didn't just force that through and do the start. I think they would have had a big mess on their hands, and they would have just, tore up a lot of equipment, and we don't need to really be doing that. So, and ultimately, the delay that they had was only a half an hour and basically pushed the race to the start that it was already going to have. So people that were watching this race, or if they were watching the IndyCar race in Washington, D.C., they were able to check that out at the same time. So that was good. I wish that those two races didn't overlap because there was so much excitement behind, the Freedom 250 here today. I'll talk a little bit about that race there as well. I know it's more a NASCAR focus, but unavoidably it was a significant event here as well, and I'll touch base on that too. But, I applaud NASCAR for working with that as best they could. And ultimately, we did have a race that was competitive, that was low attrition. And honestly, as interesting as it is, when you have a damp New Hampshire and everybody's running all those multiple different grooves or anything like that, it does race better in the dry. I think you could probably say that about just about every track out there. But I think certainly at New Hampshire, I think that the way you have to attack these corners as hard as you have to, and then roll the center as softly as you need to, that's not really as conducive to rain. You can't be as aggressive into those corner entries, and it's just not the same kind of racing out there. Again, it has its challenges. It's mechanically demanding out there, and we still saw that today, even as the track was starting to dry off. And I know it was a difficult situation when it was transitioning. And I know Cody Ware, for example, came on the radio and was very outspoken about that. Like, they were taking so many pace laps that it's like, okay, after the rain delay, it's like, why are we even doing the wet weather tires? Why don't we just wait a little bit longer and then go to the dry weather tires? That would have made more sense, especially since they basically had to throw the caution 40 laps into the race. It's a little absurd. It's tricky because I think for the TV audience, it's one thing. You could always check back and, back and forth and all that. And there's a segment of the viewership that doesn't mind the rain delay coverage. I'm honestly not a big fan of it. I've mentioned it a lot on this show. I'm not a big fan of rain delay coverage, but I know a lot of people are, and they love all the wacky moments and stuff from that, and they jump into that. But I think for the fans at the track, yeah, I mean, try to get the race started as best you can. Try not to be reckless or anything that's, could be unnecessarily dangerous for the drivers out there. But yeah, if you're able to run just a few more pace laps there and then eventually get the thing started, that's the best thing that they can do. And, I think if they waited, the equivalent of 40 laps for the track to be completely dry, I mean, that defeats the purpose of even having those tires to begin with. It could be argued that, hey, if we have these wet weather tires, they should be able to handle the conditions that we had before the delay. Again, I'm not an expert on the way that they have these set up there, and I'm sure they probably were going to explore that option. But once Hocevar spun out there at the beginning, I think, yeah, they just locked that down. They're like, well, it's the weather pattern seemed like it was pretty much through there. It was going to take another little bit. And in terms of rain delays, that was really short. They did at least serve the function of shortening a rain delay. The average rain delay we usually see with these, even with the Air Titans and with changing weather patterns, it always seems like it's at least a couple hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, whether it's a short track or a big track or whatever else in between. The fact that this one was just a half an hour, I think that's great. I think that shows that these tires still serve that purpose. So, again, and not to be an apologist here for, mistakes NASCAR makes along the way there, but I think in this case here, I think this was handled probably about as best as they could. Under the circumstances, I think it was good that they didn't do the initial start. I think it was good that they only minimized the delay before getting it going again. And I think the wet weather tires still serve their purpose. And also you had that interesting element there where the tires were starting to fall apart. One thing I would change, and a number of people have already brought this up, leave it to the teams to decide when they're going to change the tires. They shouldn't have needed to do a competition caution and have it be non-competitive and not changing the spots. That's the one thing I would change, obviously. I mean, these teams, there needs to be something in place where they trust these teams again to innovate. They trust these teams to work their strategies. NASCAR shouldn't be the ones doing the strategy. The team should figure it out. And yet again, yeah, maybe somebody 25 laps in is going to go to the dry weather tires, or somebody else is. I don't see the point of being that demanding there on the teams to do that. So hopefully that's something that gets changed. I know a number of people were bringing that up, and they've been bringing it up. I know this has been NASCAR's approach to wet weather protocol here up to this point, but that definitely needs to change because it's just absurd. And, you got drivers out there like Nemechek that lost laps, from a minor incident that didn't bring out a caution, incidentally. But perhaps could have been in a situation where he came in, got dry weather tires at the same time, maybe made up some of that ground after getting the toe link fixed. Just make it interesting. People like things that make the races interesting at the same point. And I don't think that's anything too reckless or outside the parameters of the experience that these drivers have too. So, hopefully that gets looked at. Everything's something that, can be learned from, but, that's another one, there at the same time. One thing I didn't mention with the Truck Series race, and I think another reason that the truck race was as competitive as it was, especially for the regular season finale, was how large the entry list was. My goodness. I believe Joseph Strigley pointed out this is the largest entry list for a truck race not at Daytona in like 2 or 3 years here since a Bristol dirt race a few years ago. Having 41 trucks for 36 spots. It just reminds me of how wonderful it is when you have a large entry list, and that just makes everything that much more challenging. It makes qualifying more interesting and more consequential. And it really forces other teams to really, be creative out there and earn their stripes out there, even the small teams out there. In this case here, we saw the Rackley War effort switch their drivers between the two different trucks, trying to get Tony Breidinger and Dawson Sutton into the race. Ultimately, you had an incident, mechanical issue for Sutton's truck. Breidinger barely gets in the field. She gets swapped out. Saw the same thing with Luke Baldwin and Frankie Muniz. Unfortunately, Baldwin gets involved in an incident right when the race starts and, damages his truck as he's just sliding across the finish line there. Landon Lewis gets involved in another accident there in the opening laps, and they're kind of battling for last place there, and ultimately both of them clawing their way past Spencer Boyd. And see, that's again, I think another consequence of having a large entry list and people being that competitive. Once they made the show, they were going to make the most of it. So ordinarily you would see the kind of damage that we saw in the 33 truck or the damage to the 45 truck pretty much end your day, but they stayed out there and ultimately did get past Spencer Boyd. And I'm sure Spencer would have been able to get back out there if he could have at the same time. It just ultimately didn't work out that way, and he ended up with the last place finish there too. So it was good to see a good, compelling kind of garage race there as well too at the same time. So it ended up being a bit different. Different certainly from last year where you had a first lap incident with Connor Mosack in like the first couple of corners, and there was just a little bit too much damage there, and the 81 truck got knocked out of that race. So, again, no two incidents are the same. I'm sure there was more damage there in the 81 than there was with any of these that were involved on Saturday. But again, I think it made for a good show out there at both ends of the field at the same time too. So that was cool. Also, one of the other, I have a number of notes here that I want to kind of go over that we'll do before we get into the trivia portion of the show and other things to discuss here at the same time. The announcement that Regan Smith is going to be driving the All-Star truck in the Truck Series at Bristol next month, and I believe they said at Charlotte as well. So congratulations to him. Glad to see him being very excited about that. Sleek and Swift, Regan Smith getting back out there and making a couple more starts in the top 3 series here in the Truck Series. Again, I know people are having mixed feelings about the Ram effort, what their intentions are, and, where they should be performance-wise. I'm just glad to have them out there, honestly. And I think their brand activation at the track is exciting. I've spoke to people out there that are involved in that, and they're very excited too. It's not to the same scope as what we saw back in 2001, but nothing really can be. It's doing it in the Truck Series here and developing something beyond that. It's not the same as a Cup Series effort, and having one team basically take over that effort is very different as well. So that's the other part of it there. And I think they've had some reasonably good runs. They haven't been I'll tell you this, they haven't been totaling up a ton of last place finishes. I know I pretty much saw, I think, one of the only ones this year back at San Diego when Corey LaJoie got involved in an incident. Incidentally, I couldn't really even figure out why he got the damage there. I just watched the parts of that race last night, and he actually tangled with Connor Mosack in one of the chicanes there, and FS1 being what it is, didn't even really show the impact. So it was hard to figure out even what happened on TV there as well. Again, one way or the other there too. But however Regan's able to perform, I think it'll be interesting to see just, what he can do out there. And, again, I'm sure that these drivers still provide notes to this organization that's going to be helping them in the near future too. So we'll see we'll just see what happens there at the same time. So we got that. Speaking of the Truck Series, I guess we could talk about some of the scheduling announcements that have come out this past week, especially a couple of venues for the Truck Series next year. This being the return of Mo Sport for the first time since 2019. I'm very excited about that, about getting the trucks back up there, and being able to put on a show out there. It's a beautiful road course. Last Bro and myself were up there the last time that the Truck Series ran at that course back in 2019. And big thanks. Shout out to our friend Rob Taylor up there, who we were staying with up there as well. Did the artwork for the cover for the Derek Cope book there as well. Yeah, we checked out that venue back then, and they put on a good show up there. We didn't get the big wreck in the last corner like you always see in a number of the other races up there. But we did get, I think in the Canadian Tire race that they had that weekend did have a tangle like that. I was in the garage area at the time during that, but that was a fun venue. And it's interesting when you see these standalone events and, how few broadcasters or something, or, the skeleton crew of the pit reporters are brought out there. I believe Alan Cavana was out there for that one, and he and I were kind of bouncing off discussions and stuff in the garage area there, and looking, following what was happening there between the different series. But that was really interesting, and I'm glad it's back on the circuit. I'd love to see Montreal get back on the circuit there as well, for how great of a venue it was in the O'Reilly series. I know a number of people have been calling for it, but Motorsport's a good start. Maybe that'll be a foothold to exploring that option there. Again, I know it's going to be demanding for the truck teams to get up there. That's going to be unavoidably a challenge there as well, but hopefully less of a challenge than Mexico City was for the Cup and the O'Reilly teams last year. So we'll see what happens at the same time. And then at the other side, Bowman Gray gets to still have an event next year. Of course, we've had the Clash last couple of years at Bowman Gray, but this year with the weather being what it was, I think it was a pretty good indication that, it's just not the right time of the year for it. And people now coming around to bringing the Clash back to Daytona, which we've already had the announcement of. That's fine. I think with this car, you're probably not going to get the single file, freight train kind of deal like we've usually seen with the old Gen 6 cars, but back before that change started, and we did this experiment between the LA Coliseum and the Bowman Gray and so forth. But I'm glad Bowman Gray still gets some presence in the NASCAR's Top 3 Series. The first time there's been a points-paying race there since, I believe, the 70s. I think it's great. Get the Truck Series out there. Get a series out there that still has the typical steel-bodied, vehicles out there. Fenders get pushed in and things like that. I think even with the power difference, the engines not being as strong as in the other circuits as well, it offsets that too. And I think it'll be an interesting venue. I don't know how they'll get 36 trucks out there, if they're going to bring it down to like closer to 30, kind of like the Bristol Dirt Race did. That'll be interesting to see. I don't know if they're going to do qualifying heats or something. I think something like that would be fun. I think Bowman Gray would have been great for the All-Star race too. Put the Cup guys in late models or modifieds or something, and just, add a little extra twist to it there. But, again, maybe this is a step towards that as well. We've seen Wilkesboro go back and forth between a points race and the All-Star race. Maybe this could be the same thing. But I think in and of itself, I don't have any problem with it. I think it'll be cool. I'm sure you're going to get guys like Burt Myers and stuff out there to get some rides in the Truck Series and have locals be in the mix. I think that would be great to see, or get picked up by, series, regular teams in the sport there too. That would be cool. And I hope it's a good venue. I don't know if it'll be one that we'll be able to cover next year. We're still kind of figuring out our schedule for 2027. As I said, I think I mentioned this on the show last week, we are not going to be doing the Cup race in Las Vegas, unfortunately, this year. There's just too many other things we got kind of going on here in the meantime. But we're looking ahead to next year in terms of the trackside coverage and returning to that next year. And got some other exciting things that I'd like to try out there in that span. But hopefully we'll, maybe that'll be one we'll look at, or, just kind of figure out where everything is. What we like to do is, especially if it's something out of venue like that, we try to like hit another race on the way back or something, if at all possible, like we did when we went to Rockingham and then did Talladega. Something like that, I think, is probably going to be more than likely what we're looking at. And honestly, we don't know when Sears Point's going to be still. A little nervous, honestly, about that. We're down to, I guess, the last few weeks in June and July that haven't been filled in the unofficial calendars we're seeing for the Cup Series schedule. And Sears Point and Nashville and a couple other tracks are ones that we still haven't heard about where exactly they're going to be. I'm hopeful that we're still good on that. Because again, I think it's a great venue and it's, it's the home track and all that. But we'll see we'll see what happens. And that's, of course, going to be playing a factor, of course, into what we look at next year, too. So we'll find out. That'll be another thing to kind of look at there at the same time. No San Diego yet. I thought I saw one that said in August, but maybe that's unofficial? Okay, well, we'll see. Yeah, all right. Well, that one too. So yeah, a number of different races that are still up in the air. So again, yeah, the California dates, I'd still like to support those, whatever comes to pass on that. But I like doing things out of market wherever possible too, especially to meet up with people that want to chat or hang out there at the same time. We had a great time doing the Rockingham and Talladega deal, and yeah, we're ready to kind of look at things like that again for next season. So we'll find out what the story is there at the same time. Let's see here. Let's see. I'll hang on to that at the same time. Okay, yes, let's go ahead and jump into this here as well. Pivot a little bit to some of these other news stories here too. So, of course, one of the probably biggest stories, speaking of racing in California, of course, was the story that broke earlier this week, or at least seemed to break there, about the Fontana track and its future, and apparently a new easement being granted over the remaining property that NASCAR still holds here. And this was first interpreted, and I believe me, I fell for it too. And I apologize if anybody else, if that was too soon on that there too. I'm glad I didn't go any further than I did, at least beyond, spreading the word about this message that went out there. I definitely had conflicted thoughts about if this turned out to be ultimately the end for the Fontana track out there. But of course, we've now found out, at least from other reports, Jordan Bianchi going out there as well and checking with NASCAR that apparently they still do own that last parcel of the Fontana track, that whatever the plans are for it and, or anything, or maybe not an immediate priority. I'm not sure exactly what the deal is, but apparently they're still at least holding on to it there. I will admit, even from a legal standpoint, in reading the documents, it was a little confusing. When it showed both of the parcels, it looked to me like it was going to be something that they were going to basically just, unload the rest of that property there, and they just build more data centers or warehouses or whatever they're building out there. And also the language of an easement. An easement could, basically, if it's basically like granting a path over your property, or granting, like somebody's going to set up like a sewer line or an electric line, or they're going to literally put a pathway over your property. That's basically what an easement is. And that could be something that could restrict your use of it. It sounds like it could just be like a road or something. They've paved over some other roads where the corners used to be. And maybe this is just another one like that. But the more you do that, easements have a way of still dividing the property up a bit. So even if it's not a situation where they're unloading the property necessarily, they are getting rid of an interest in the property still. Like, what is going on? I think that's still a fair question to have there. And it is, I think, as I said at the time, when the other part of the story came out that apparently they weren't selling the property, it's fair to ask, what is the plan? And why have we still not really heard, that much about it here? I know there were some contesting that, saying, well, they jumped on this the next morning. You don't expect them to be responding in the middle of the night, when this was breaking, later in the afternoon or something like that. But I think, to me, that really speaks to how important this project really is to them. If it's not really an important deal, to them, that's the way this kind of feels like. It feels like it's not a big priority. And I know this was suggested before COVID. I know plenty has happened since COVID. But again, I mean, it's like, what exactly is going to be going on with this property? It's, if nothing else, it wouldn't hurt to at least clarify where they are on that. And I couldn't help but remember back a couple of years ago, I think it was at Phoenix, where they started tearing up the track And we wouldn't have known that from NASCAR if there weren't people that were out there that were taking pictures of the track showing that the demolition was happening. And somebody was basically confronting Steve Phelps with this in the media center and saying, hey, can you, it's like, it looks like they're tearing up the track. Can you confirm that's starting? And he basically just shrugged and was like, well, yeah, it started. It's like, well, why that wasn't important to immediately bring up or anything, or, maybe treat it as an opportunity to further clarify what they're going to be doing with the property. I don't know why it wasn't approached that way. And this week reminded me so much of that at the same time. So again, I'll share in the responsibility in spreading, this story when it came out. And I think a lot of other people felt the same way, that, this is something that they're concerned about, that they feel like, yeah, that they probably are not building a track out there. They probably aren't going to be doing anything with the property. But admittedly, when you look at the parcel that's there, it still has the grandstands, it still has the front straightaway, it still has the garages, it still has that entire row building on the front straightaway, which has the media center and other facilities in there. Again, maybe they could do something with it. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know how feasible it would be to still turn it into a short track. It seems like having all those other properties that close to it would make it tricky. But then you see some of these other tracks and they have big warehouses and stuff right behind them. I think it wasn't Iowa, but it was like one of the other ones we saw in recent weeks had like a big building behind it. So maybe that's what they're looking at. I don't know. But it just seems like they're very reluctant to even describe anything else. I mean, it's been now a few other days since then. I haven't heard anything new about what exactly they're doing with it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if anything has come out. But, that's the problem, with it. And I think that could have been something that gets talked about there too. If they're just sitting on it because they don't have any current plans or they don't have the funding for it, or again, looking at things like the race at the San Diego road course or street course or anything like that. Obviously that takes some attention away from it, but it's fine. Just, I'm not saying that NASCAR should be beholden to every thing that pops up on social media. But again, it's, I think it's worthwhile be like, whoa, hang on. It's like, this isn't happening. Here's the thing that's happening out here. And just nip it in the bud really quick and then just be like, oh, okay. And then, and then maybe some follow-up questions happen and that's it, but it just doesn't seem like that's happening. So, again, I'm not going to pretend to understand what's happening with it. Again, I don't know what the nature of the easement is. I mean, the fact that this was denied by NASCAR and them saying they still have the property, I'm still left with more questions. And I think that's where kind of a lot of us are kind of finding, at the same time. So, I don't know. We'll just, we'll see what the story is here, at the same time. Yeah, let's see here. Okay. Probably this would be a good transition to talk about the America 250 race today. So again, I know we don't typically talk about IndyCar racing or something like that on there. One thing I will say is right off the bat, I think it was really cool I think it was great that they put this together. I mentioned this here last week on the show and hoping that it was going to be a big success. I know that the initial reports are still coming in. It looked like I'm glad the weather was fine. I'm glad the broadcast seemed to go well. Everybody that was involved in it seemed like they were very excited to be there. It reminded me very much of the atmosphere at San Diego for the NASCAR event out there. And it is extraordinary. People, when this was first announced, were like, oh, there's not going to be enough time to put this race together. And they did it. They put this whole street course together. They didn't even have a delay like we had at Markham last week in the Canadian race. They had it all ready to go, for practice and qualifying. And they had the IROC guys out there. How exciting is that? And I'll tell you what, I know that, I think Rusty Wallace was mentioning that Hendrick Motorsports was still helping out Gordon there, in this IROC car. And I'm sure that I don't doubt that, especially since they're from Ray Evernham's collection. And Ray Evernham and Jeff Gordon, I still think, are probably the most dominant driver crew chief pairing in certainly the sport's modern history. And I think could be contested for one of the most dominant all time, right up there with, Dale Inman and Richard Petty. types there too. But how wonderful that they put on a good show out there with the IROC cars. Looked like the crowd was really into it. Great to see. Great to see a good mix there between stock cars and Indy cars out there. Obviously not having NASCAR out there with the races in New Hampshire here this weekend, but still kind of in the same area. It's at the same time. And again, I hate that the race got overlapped there a bit with the rain adjustment to it there in New Hampshire. But yeah, I think it's wonderful. I think it's great that this was put on and that it's a prestigious race. And much like San Diego, it may never happen again. Maybe it's the one time that they'll ever do it. And it may not happen again. I feel that way about San Diego too. And that's why I was really trying to, there were some times in San Diego, I was feeling really tired because I was really trying to push myself there to like cover it as much as I could. But I wanted to take in as much as I could from that weekend. And I still kick myself about stuff I didn't do during the weekend because I don't know if it's going to happen again. And I feel like, and great coverage by a lot of people that were down there. You had Jeff Gluck and Bob Pockris and everybody else that was involved out there covering that event. I think they did a wonderful job of that too. This stuff is great. It's great, and I know you got different people out there that, that aren't fans of the administration and all that, but hey, look, I think the important thing to really take from these events, and it's like the UFC fight, and it's like the celebrations of the 4th of July, and it is still the 250th anniversary of the year in the United States. And I know not everybody in here is, here from the U.S., with respect to our international viewers here as well. Welcome as well. But, again, and I think this is something that maybe everybody, can identify with as well. When you have something that's this outwardly patriotic, obviously, if you're going to have a race in Washington, D.C., the president is going to be involved. And any president that happened before this, this could have been under the Biden administration. This could have been under the Obama administration. And they would have been the center of the attention that way. And everybody would have expected that too. For whatever reason or reasons, it came up this time. And I think it's tremendous that this ever happened. The drivers throughout the whole field wanted to win this race. And I think the big thing to take from it, again, if it was something that did offend you in some kind of way or anything like that, I think the important thing to remember with a lot of patriotic things that happen like this is they are all aspirational. They are things that are not necessarily about the world as it is now. They are things about what can be. About what, the future may be and recognizing a national identity. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think we saw very much the same thing in the World Cup just this last summer here. Same deal. The different countries that represent themselves, bringing out the best players that they can, putting on the best show they can, and whoever gets there to the finals there, and celebrate. Yeah, it's a big part of that too. And they should celebrate it and recognize their identity as well. There are other countries in England, for example, you can't fly the Union Jack because it's now a controversial act. I won't get into exactly why, because that's a whole other story, but being outwardly patriotic and recognizing that aspiration of your nation is not something that everyone is able to do. And I think the alternative, where it becomes something controversial, is something we should avoid. I think it's something that we should celebrate. And again, you may not be happy with the way things are now. I get it. I totally get it. There's all things that we strive for. But the reason that, things like this, come up there, and I think that there is a place for it there, is, again, we all hope for something better. We all hope for something that is going to be up there. And I hope that, again, if people that are in power are not the ones that are inspiring that in you, then maybe you are looking still continuously for, who is going to inspire that. And that's all part of it. That's why you always hear about this being the American experiment. It's an experiment, we're all trying to figure it out and all that too. So I don't want to go too far down the political side of it here. I do want to address though that element of it, because when I was reading a lot of stories about this race, you got people that are just going to go, oh, they're all, they're anti, against the president, against President Trump. Or then there's the other side too, where they're, virulently for him at the same time. I don't want to straddle the fence on that, but I don't think that the casualty of that is enjoying something like this event. Just like the World Cup, just like the race in San Diego, just like the UFC fight, just like the pit stop that was next to the portico. It's okay to admit that something is cool, or the flyover when they had that beach where there was the flyover and the jets were down there. It's like, okay, people are like, oh no, this could have been really disastrous. Well, but it wasn't. You can't even touch one of the Blue Angels jets unless you are one of the best of the best. And, allow yourself to be inspired, allow yourself to aspire to things. I mean, I think that's great. I think that's important. And I wouldn't begrudge that of anybody, So I don't want to sound like can't we all just get along thing? Because it's not really about that. It is more about just recognizing what something is and what it is not. And I think that that's the important thing. So I do hope, to put a bow on this here, that, again, as I said last week, I hope that this race today was a tremendous success. I got my America colored shirt on here, my Where's Waldo deal I wore back for the 4th of July. And yeah, I will admit it. I enjoyed it. I love the pomp and circumstance. I know that this is a boisterous and noisy nation here, and we have things that some people disagree with and some people don't agree with, but that's part of it. That's part of the national identity, and that's okay. It's okay to have that. I hope that everybody that was out there at the race, whether they were fans or drivers, I hope they had a great time at it. And it looks like they did. I didn't get a chance to see the whole thing with the overlap with the race, but it looked like it was really cool. So, yeah, I think that's another part of that too. And heck, Jeff Gordon winning an IROC race. How much of a throwback there is that? So that's really cool. But yeah, again, it could be something that just never happens again, but it could be, it could be the same thing there, at the same time too. So yeah, hey, so hopefully, again, I don't want to sound like too reluctant to ruffle feathers on that, but I do feel tempted to say something on that because, again, every time something comes up on this, you hear the same things you hear on the news, but there's another way to look at it there a little bit. And it's not straddling the fence. It's just recognizing what it is and being okay with it. And that's fine. And I hope that's liberating too. If you're listening to this and maybe you're in one of those camps out there, maybe that's something that will, I don't know, refresh your view on that too. So, yeah, so I'll leave it at that. But I'm going to get into the trivia section here, and we will talk about that there as well. Oh gosh, we had the Kyle Busch Invitational this week at Bowman Gray. Great job by Samantha. It's great to see Samantha and Brexton out there. They're continuing to show just tremendous strength in the face of what they've been dealing with there as well. Kurt Busch's interview, of course, this week was very emotional and understandably there as well. Again, thoughts continue to go out to his family. We had Kyle Busch Day this past week. I didn't even realize that was going to be something that came together. I would have just made a standalone video of the montage from my video that I did earlier this month if I knew that was going to be something in the works. But I saw a notice about that as I was on my way to my day job there, and I thought it was great. I thought it was great that people were continuing to share stories. Undoubtedly, it's going to continue. It's going to be emotional as well this October when they're going to have the celebration of life that's going to be taking place after the truck race at Charlotte. Yeah, but I think it was well done. I think on social media, again, it was great to see the outpouring of continuing to have people share their memories and photos of Kyle in his career there as well. So we'll jump. Good to see that. Good to see that too. So anyway, I'm going to jump into the trivia section here now. I'm going to go step aside here for just a bit, and then we're going to come back and we'll do some trivia questions here, and I'll jump into super chats. I think I saw at least one here, so I'll come into that too, and we'll find out what we can have there at the same time. So stay tuned, folks. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay. Hopefully, okay, I think we have the audio for the game, so it looks good. Yeah, I think I am going to go back to my other camera next week. Because, yeah, I have this camera. I got this one. It's called an eye contact camera. And it's one of those ones where it drops the lens about 3 inches lower on the screen. And it works well. I think it works great for a Zoom call where the face is on the screen and you want to have eye contact with a person. But for me here, for this show, I'm looking up at the blue light that's on. And so I'm kind of looking up where the camera was before. And when I do that, like, yeah, it looks like I'm not looking at it. I'll be curious what this looks like here. I'm sure you guys have already noticed on this show here, but that'll be another part of it there. But yeah, I kind of picked this up more for Zoom calls, like if I do interviews online and do that. But I wanted to try it on the show here to see what that looked like. I think also it shows the room a little better when it's up higher. I have another one on a control arm that works, so I might do that. But yeah, I'm glad I'm trying it out, though. That was one thing I was shooting for this week. So we'll get into that. I will mention as well, I know I got the music in the background. I can turn that down a little bit. Is that? Nope, that's different. There we go. I'll mention as well, well, before we get started on this here, too. And go ahead and let me know which avatar you'd like that we can do here too. We could do the Mayfield one if we want to do Ryan Blaney for the win. I'm looking like we're seeing a call already on inspection. I guess we can jump into that. Probably should be doing that. Let's do that. Oh, yes, there we go. Yes, 9 minutes ago, Cup Tech is complete. No issues, says Bob Pockrass. Ryan Blaney is the winner. No cars to R&D, none. So there you go. So very exciting there. As well. So congratulations to Ryan Blaney. It will be a Ross Chastain article tonight here as well. I'll get into the super chats here in a bit. I maybe do that after the, let's see. No, maybe I'll do it before here because you guys are going to be still picking which one here for the avatar here. Oh, good. We got two here. So there we go. First of all, Beast of Metal, thank you very much for your super chat here on this. What I think is absurd for $20. Thank you so much. Goodness, man. Do appreciate it. What I think is absurd is that they don't let the drivers pick and choose when to swap treads for slicks at ovals. All other series that use wet tires do it. NASCAR even does it at non-ovals. What purpose does this rule serve? Completely agree. Completely agree. I think that is something that needs to be explored. Yeah, and just let the teams do it. I mean, if you let the teams, I get that the teams aren't allowed to do absolutely everything they want to do. But at the same time, letting them determine their tire strategy should be allowed. I mean, leave it to NASCAR to demand when they put them on. Maybe make that like a safety restriction or something like that, especially if they're going to put them on for the start of the race. But in terms of when to switch it, the people on the track, it's kind of like the same issue with the spec car itself. The teams themselves are going to get the best idea of if the track is dry enough to race. Hearing again, Cody Ware and other drivers before the start of the race or even today after the half-hour delay were giving plenty of information as to the track conditions, and they could have very easily just run slick tires even at that point. So that could have been the situation there too. And again, same thing with them working on the cars themselves. Who's better than the teams to determine what's going to make these cars go faster or race harder or try to find the best advantage? It's not going to be NASCAR. It's going to be the teams. So again, that's another thing that needs to be looked at, and I totally agree. So I appreciate the message there, Beast of Metal. And again, thank you so much for the super chat. And Michael Kelly Gilliam, 9202, thank you for your super chat as well. Mentioning that Ram for $5, thank you very much. Ram needs to take their time getting the cup. Agree, definitely. I think that's probably the biggest thing you could take from their Truck Series program this year is that they're just not ready for cup. They're just not. Especially if they're going to be working with just one organization, even if that organization's fielding 4 or 5 trucks, however many it is. It's a staggering number. It's not the easiest way to get back up to the circuit. You need other teams to be working with it. I'm glad that Carl Long's team is doing their part and reuniting with the Dodge and the Ram brand to try to field a truck of their own. I hate that Derek White didn't make the field this week. But again, large entry list, they'll have other opportunities. And that 69 truck looks really nice. I like that black paint scheme that they're running on it. I think it looks great. So hopefully that'll be something that'll be a more common deal here at the same time. But yeah, they definitely need more time. And they needed more time before the 2001 deal. They were in the truck series for many years before they got into Cup. I kind of discussed that a little bit in 500 days. And I think that was good because by the time they got up there, they were ready to be competitive, but even then they weren't quite ready to win. They had very good cars in Daytona. They struggled for the next few races after that. And then, again, we haven't even got to Dodge's first win in the 500 days series yet. And we're already, past the first 9 races. So, that's another way to kind of look at that. And yeah, things haven't been that different, here in the same respect. So I think that's another way to look at that. Keep losing signal, so missed entire minutes. Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that, Rooney Mac. I hope that's not on my end here. But we'll see what we got here at the same time. It seems like we're good. I'll bring up the audio on the game here so you can hear that a little better. Let me see. I'll bump it up a little bit more here. Oh, one other thing too, before we get into it here, I'll bring it back down again. So still working on more videos for the channel. This will be kind of a quick video update here as well. So I have, I've been making updates here with the Patreon, patreon.com/lastcar on Brock. I have a couple of different larger projects that I'm hoping to kind of get done here. I had another thing come up here these last couple of weeks that is time sensitive that I hope to have an announcement on next month. I think that'll be, the reason for it will be very clear once that comes up. I actually have a video that's going to be part of that. So there will be a video next month. That's what I'm planning, but it's going to be a little different, than maybe what you're, expecting here in the meantime. But the good news is after that, I should have more time to be able to work on, the NASCAR projects again. And especially as we get into the closing weeks of the season and the off season, that will free up more time here at the same time. So I'm kind of building towards that. That's kind of the goal here at the moment. But yeah, another project coming up here, and I think that'll be another one. NASCAR PokeFan 1896, I see your comment there about the next Rise of the Field Fillers video. That's actually one of the ones I'm working on. So that will be another one that's going to be coming up. I hope that it's going to have an interview with the driver. I see your question there on that as well. One episode one is going to be a 2-part. Actually, I'll tell you this. One is going to be a 2-part episode. It does have interviews with 2 different drivers, and it's going to be a members only video that is going to replace the Kenny Irwin Jr. video. So the Kenny Irwin Jr. part 3 will then go live as soon as that is ready. And then as soon as the next members only video is done, those 2 videos will go live too. But actually, I have another Rise of the Field Fillers episode beyond that is going to be publicly available and not go through the members only deal. And that one I think is going to be, that one I don't have a driver interview for it yet, but I think it needs to have one there. So hopefully that'll be coming up at the same time. And all this is separate from both the project I'm going to be announcing next month and from another 2-part video that's also going to be publicly available. So the reason it's coming like this, I'll give you another look back at the time frame here on this. So over the last off season, I just got a lot of writing done on these 2 larger projects. They're both turned out to be 2-parters. I had pretty much, I got the scripts done by about March or April, like after the season started. I got them recorded in early May. And then we lost Kyle Busch. So I paused both of those to work on that video. So I started over on the research and got that written and got that done and got it posted in early August. Then after that, I went back to the old videos, got them edited, got the outtakes taken out, got those clipped up, and I'm starting to put the images in there. And then this other project came up. So now I'm working on that. So that's why it's taken this long. And I certainly didn't anticipate it taking this long. Unfortunately, the way this goes, you just have to be kind of flexible with that. But the good news is I'm always working on something here that's going to be coming up. And I think we get to that too. So I'd love to get at least one of these 2-part videos I'm working on done in mid to late September, maybe early October. We'll see how things shake out. It's another reason we're not doing the Vegas trip this year. It's got too much on my plate here at the moment. So we'll get there too. And I think that'll be another good one coming up. But yeah, I got plenty of things to work on here. In the meantime, I got some standalones I'm working on with Brian Hallman. That's sent over some great photos for. I'd love to keep doing. I got the next 500 days. I'm very anxious to get to because it's on the Fontana track, which I've already covered in the Kyle Busch video. So it'll be a good comparison. We're going to go back and forth between 2005 and 2001 and similarities and differences on that. These are going to be good videos coming up. So yeah, plenty of work coming up. If you want a little more detailed updates and things like that, definitely encourage you to check out any level of my Patreon, patreon.com/lastcar on Brock. You can join for as little as $1 on that. There's a few preview posts there for free as well. So if you want to get kind of a taste of what is in there, you can see that. But if you want more of the regular updates, the paid levels are the best way to do that. And if you join any of those, you also get your name on the magnets when we do the road trips, send out newsletters and stickers and things like that. A lot of fun stuff. But patreon.com/lastcar on Brock is the best place to go for those details. And on that note as well, actually just occurred to me on another thing. Tomorrow, I should be getting my next batch of J.D. McDuffie books in, copies I ordered from Amazon a couple weeks ago when I did the promo back on August 11th for the anniversary of his last race. I'll have those copies in tomorrow. I believe I have 5 people that have ordered them since then. Thank you so much for picking those up, by the way. I'll have your copies there tomorrow and send them out this week, so you should be getting those very soon as well. So, yeah, a lot been happening in the meantime. If you want copies, of course, those will be available. If I need to order more, I'll just handle that in the meantime. Yeah, I think that's going. So, yeah, plenty of things that are happening here in the meantime. And I think it's going to be very exciting here, too. So, stay tuned. Stay tuned. So, okay, let's jump back into trivia here. And, yeah, let's do, we'll do Mayfield here for the icon. That seemed to be the consensus. So we'll bring out the 12, especially now that he's officially the winner.
Number 12, Jeremy Mayfield.
There we go. We'll bring out the Penske number 12 on this. Yeah, NASCAR. NASCAR Poke fan. I appreciate you enjoying the interviews. I may have some other interview standalone videos. The Ned Jarrett video. I was very pleasantly surprised that people enjoyed that as much as they did. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed the interview standalones. I may have more like that coming up too. So we'll do the, take the timer off here and we'll do that.
Center tile.
There we go.
You'll have one final question to answer. And if you get that one right, we'll have a new race champion. Good luck. Click on the tachometer to roll the die. Click F1 for more information on the game categories.
Alrighty. Well, let's do this. I don't know we'll do it to completion today here, but we'll do some questions here in the meantime.
Select a category by moving to one of the highlighted tiles.
Let's start with NASCAR. We bring the mobile one forward a little bit closer and hands on the buzzers. Let's see what we got.
What on first decided the transporters brought a touch of class to the Winston Cup.
Ooh.
Petty engineering, Carl Kiefer, Smokey the Wood Brothers.
Oh, now this is an interesting question. I mean, I'm glad we're still getting some new ones here in this game. I'm not exactly sure how deep it is, but here we go. What owner first decided that transporters brought a touch of class to Winston Cup? Was it Petty Engineering, Carl Kiefer, Smokey Eunuch, or the Wood Brothers? Do not look it up. Try to guess it. Do not look it up. Transporters. Transporter culture is fascinating. Incidentally, if you have not checked out the J.D. McDuffie book, there's a couple stories in there about transporters, especially the ones that J.D. used, and NASCAR's perception of them. That's very interesting. So definitely check that out. Yeah, these all sound improbable. I'm with you, Beast of Metal. Yeah, hard to say. Hard to say. Petty Engineering, Carl Kiefer, Smokey Eunuch, or the Wood Brothers. I don't even remember what Smokey Eunuch's transporter looked like. I mean, I imagine from that era, it would probably be, obviously not from the current era of transporters as we understand them, but yeah. Think of putting a basketball in a gas tank. Yeah, there you go. Alrighty. Kudos to Lionel for, again, I know that people are not happy always with their you know, the quality of their products and stuff like that. And I definitely agree. And I have a whole laundry list of diecast that never got released that I am very not happy about. I am so glad that the Eric Jones, Wally Dallenbach car reached minimum order quantity, because if that one did not, I was going to be very not happy. But I'm very pleased with the Petty throwbacks. So when I did the pictures of this earlier this week, when they did the 1981 Riverside ride swap between Richard and Kyle, the quality on those is quite good. I was very pleased with that. So that was a good find. So I'm glad that those are more publicly available there as well. I hope they do more things like that. Let's see. So we got options for Unique. We got a couple for Carl Kiekhofer. We got one for the Wood Brothers. See a couple for the Petties. I mean, again, it's really tricky. I mean, Petty Engineering does, yeah, they did revolutionize the sport. That's true, NASCAR. Poke you fan there. But Kiekhofer, I'm seeing a lot for that. There you go. You got it. You got it. Very correct. All right, here we go. Let's go.
You can move to any highlighted tile.
There we go. We'll do a roll again and see much further.
Move to any highlighted tile.
Let's get a wild card question.
And you'll move up in the standing things.
All right, we still got a little bit of the chatter here on this. It's down to 69%.
Whose number 11 car was parked
Oh,
in
how
front of
perfect
the White
timing.
House in 1976? Bobby Allison's, Richard Petty's, Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s, Junior Johnson's.
Alrighty, here we go. Whose number 11 car was parked in front of the White House? Scooey. Whose number 11 car was parked in front of the White House in 1976 during the bicentennial? How about that? You know, the bicentennial events there are a fascinating history to explore as well. Bobby Allison, Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt Sr., or Junior Johnson? Whose number 11 was parked in front of the White House in 1976? Do not look it up. See if you can guess the correct answer on that. Yeah, see again, sometimes we talked about the divine humor there last week. Sometimes we get interestingly timed questions that you just can't explain it. You can't plan on it. It just worked out that way. Junior Johnson is a car owner. Seeing a few for Junior Johnson. Seeing Richard Petty. See Bobby. I'm seeing pretty much everybody on this one. Yeah. No, I agree, Ryan Idius. I mean, generally, I'm not crazy about Lionel. I certainly don't like that, you know, you can go to stores these days and they hardly ever have any diecast, and it seems like they're so slow in producing them. They're starting to turn the corner a little bit. I'm glad the production, they've adjusted the minimum order quantity a bit. It definitely, you know, leaves more to be desired there too. And the Fanatics one, definitely agree too. I mean, there's other artists out there that have shown themselves to produce much better merch out there. You know, your Harris Lews, your Ryan Dailies, and so forth, and they produce just amazing stuff. I picked up one of those shirts that had the Cars late model tour, and it remodeled, actually a good cross section between the two. And it had like the cars shown as if they were in Matchbox diecast boxes from the old team transporters from back in the day. And it's a wonderful design. My mom liked it too. So it's a good design. I'm glad to see people are getting more experimental with that. So I think that'll be another one to look at. Alrighty. I see a lot for Junior Johnson. Let's go with it.
Junior Johnson.
There we go.
And that's a wedge. Roll again.
Yeah, Winner's Circle was cool. Yeah, I mean, again, we need to get back to the diecast that have the trading cards. I don't know why we went away from that. I mean, you get the diecast now. I mean, the Winner's Circle ones still have the trading cards a bit with the little stand and stuff like that. I guess you have that. But it used to be like, yeah, the mainstream ones have a little stand on them, have the, you know, things like that. That would be good. Or have like a sticker or a tattoo or something like that. Those were great. Yeah, Winner's Circle was great with those. Oh, we're chugging hard, 54%.
By moving to one of the highlighted tiles.
Let's do pits.
What's the penalty for dragging equipment from pit?
Ooh, we saw this today.
During a race.
We saw this today. Let's see what it used to be.
Stop and go. One lap, 15 seconds.
All right, now this is a late 90s game, so the rule may not have been the same as what we saw of what? Was it was it Christopher Bell today that had the dragged the gun out of the pit box? It seemed like we saw this today. Because, yeah, pit miscues were loomed large in the race today for sure. But here we go. What is the penalty for dragging equipment from the pits to pit road during a race? Is it 2 laps, a stop and go, 1 lap, or 15 seconds? Yeah, the Hot Wheels Formula One deal. I went to my local Target and I saw they had the 10-pack of the Formula One cars. Like the basic version, like the ones that would go on like the tracks and stuff like that, and that was great. I loved that the box explained what each of the teams were and stuff like that. That's wonderful. Obviously, the team model in that sport is still somewhat different from what we have in NASCAR. They're more similar now than they've ever been. But yeah, I thought that was fun, and I thought that was good. And we did used to have Hot Wheels back in the late 90s. The Hot Wheels diecast that they made for NASCAR, those were the premium ones. You know, I mean, a Racing Champions one would be like $3, a Hot Wheels one would be like $5 or $6. And it was a very big difference. And they were heavier and they were more detailed. They used to not have a clear coat on them, so the paint would smudge. You get ones from like the late 90s, and unfortunately they're like that. But by like the early 2000s, they started putting the clear coat on them, and they were just gorgeous diecast. They're still great. And they're very heavy and very detailed. And obviously the partnership they had with Kyle Petty and the PE2 team was a great deal. That was fun. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Formula One is now the ones that are enjoying that, much like IndyCar is the one enjoying Fox actually caring about motorsports. So that's just kind of the way it is. Alrighty, so what is the penalty for dragging equipment? You see a number for stop and go. Is that the one? Let's see. Let me get my cursor back here. Boop, 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 boop.
Stop and go.
There you go. Yep, that's right. Hot Wheels had the rubber tires too. You can get some Racing Champions ones. But yeah, Hot Wheels, they had those. And then the Hot Wheels also had the version that they would go on tracks too. They had a body that was a little simpler, so it could go on the loop-to-loop tracks. Because the heavy ones you really couldn't. They didn't roll fast enough. But yeah, whatever your deal was, I mean, you could get just about any paint scheme, most of them, depending on who made what. You could get it like 3 different versions. Like if you wanted a Sterling Marlin diecast in 2001, you could get it in Racing Champions, Winter Circle, or Hot Wheels. And they were all different from each other. And they all had because it was a beer brand, they all had different logos on the cars. And they all looked great. And it was awesome. And I don't know if we'll ever get back to that again, but it would be fun. It'd be fun if we get something close to it, but we do need more competition, and Lionel and Fanatics, I know, are the antithesis to that. So yeah, but I will applaud them when they do something right, and I do appreciate them doing the petty thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a small step, but it's a good step. So hopefully they take more like that while the business model hopefully restructures itself.
You can move to any highlighted tile.
This is my next time on the soapbox here today. Let's try tracks. So we had Mayfield car onto the back straightaway here.
What decade-beginning year saw Michigan Speedway first host a 400-mile event? 1990, 1960, 1980, 1970.
Yeah, I can't speak about the video games. Jude Fernandez, that's not really my purview, but I'll take your word for it, because I've heard a lot of people complaining about the video games, for sure. I saw a lot of people talking, there's some smack talking about Racing Champions diecast not being good quality. I know some of them, yeah, the paint cracks on that. I get that, yeah. I'm not happy about that either. I've had some in my own collection, or some that I've found at shows and stuff that aren't great. But yeah, I'm not really worried about. They were always marketed as the affordable collectible, which was great. And so, yeah, it's not surprising that they're not really worth that much. That's why I don't pick up every single one. I just like the ones. I pick up the ones I like. Those are the good ones. So, I kind of took stock of my collection, and you don't see a lot of Dale Earnhardt stuff in my collection. There's some, but it's not nearly the same as, the ones I collected of Jerry Nadeau or Ricky Rudd or something. So that would kind of be it. Any rate, question, what decade beginning year saw Michigan Speedway first host a 400-mile event? Was it 1990, 1960, 1980, or 1970? All right, I see a few for 70. I see a couple by 80. Very tricky. Yeah, I know not everybody cares for Racing Champions. I totally get it. Especially, I remember in 95 that I was kind of thrown off when they had the bodies a little bit more detailed than they were in 94, especially the undercarriage there. But then they made the wheels look, I never really liked those big wagon wheels they had on them. They looked like roller skates. So kind of what they had between 95 and 99, those, they evolved in kind of an interesting direction, you know, and then, you know, having the Tauruses and stuff. But some of the artistic liberties I still liked, and I was always interested to see how different they would look from the regular cars or something. And I remember the first rookie stripe I saw was on a Buckshot Jones car that was made by Racing Champions in like 99. And I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, obviously Winter Circle and Action and Team Caliber and all those were definitely better quality. Yeah. And I think when Racing Champions got into the 2000s and their last few years that they made them, they kind of were closer to that. I think the 2000 to 2005 were better. Those were pretty good. Those were pretty good. You know, unfortunately, that was about the time they really stopped, you know, kind of upgrading their deal, and they didn't really continue into 2006. There's so many things I enjoyed that seemed to end in 2005. I don't know why that's the case, but that just seemed like a very down year for some reason. But there you go. I guess it was a little mixed feelings in covering that in the Kyle Busch video. What decade beginning year saw Michigan host its first 400-mile event? Was it 90, 60, 80, or 70? I see a few for 70.
1970.
Guys are right. 70 indeed.
You can keep going.
Did they show Steve Park at the race today? He was supposed to be what, the Grand Marshal or the pace car driver or something? I didn't watch the pre-race for the race today. I tuned in basically after the first pace laps when Hocevar spun out.
Select a category by move.
Ooh, wild card again.
What outfit sponsored the 1998 24-hour race at Daytona?
Ooh.
Timex, Rolex, Rain-X, Mucilex.
Well, this is a fun one here too. Pace car driver alongside Trevor Bayne. There you go. Right on. That's right. I think Trevor Bayne is the pace car reporter is actually a pretty cool idea, especially for when there was all the rubber on the track. I found that actually kind of helpful information. So that was cool. What outfit sponsored the 1998 24-hour race at Daytona? Was it Timex, Rolex, Rain-X, or Mucilex? I remember Muesli. I don't know if Mucilex was real. Wasn't it like a cereal? Or it was like a pasta? I think. But yeah. Mucinex. Yeah, there you go. All right, a lot of you guessing Rolex. Definitely.
Rolex.
Boom, you got it. Too easy.
Roll again.
Let's do it.
You can move to any highlighted top.
Alrighty. It's been the Rolex 24 since 91. Entitlement is almost immortal as Coke at Charlotte's. That's the point.
The nylon web affixed to the driver's side window. The bug screen, the butterfly net, the catch screen, the window net.
Ooh, now this would be a really tricky question for people that are new to the sport. I can see how that would be. But what do you call the nylon web affixed to the driver's side window? Is it the bug screen, the butterfly net, the catch screen, the window net? Which one is it for the pits category? Check my notes here again. Put my note in here. Just making a note here to myself. There we go. Got it. Alrighty. Window net, the petty net. I like that. What game are you playing? I'd like to download it. Yes, NASCAR PokeFan 1896. This is Trivial Pursuit NASCAR. It is a CD-ROM game from the late 90s. I found this on eBay. I don't know if it's on Steam or anything. I'm still a novice to that. I now use Steam for our marble races for giving away the magnets. We started that after San Diego. Yeah, if you can't find it on Steam or wherever else you would find that, you can definitely find it on eBay for very cheap. There's a lot of copies of this out there. I'm running it on an emulator here as well. So yes, the WindowNet. You got that, of course. Yes. Too thick to be a butterfly net. Correct, Jude Fernandez.
You can keep going.
Move to any highlighted tile.
There we go. We got a,
If you
get a purple wedge.
This question can correctly, you earn a wedge.
Alrighty. On the small screen, the camera doesn't look bad. I'm still playing around. I'm going to have to look at this after the fact.
Original Super Speedway.
Okay.
Roger Penske, Harold Brasington, Bruton Smith, Bill France Sr.
Oh, Ryan Idius. I hate that TSN did not help you with that there. Goodness me. Alrighty. Who built NASCAR's original super speedway? Was it Roger Penske, Harold Brasington, Bruton Smith, or Bill France Sr.? NASCAR's original super speedway. Who built it? Let you guys get your answers in. The game volume seems like it's pretty low, but I don't want to crank it too high. I have about 50% right here on the soundboard. Roger Penske was a baby when the first super speedway was built. Puts it in perspective, doesn't it? Alrighty, I see a lot for Brasington, but I see a lot for Bill France Sr., and I can see why. I mean, are we talking about Darlington? Are we talking about Daytona? It seems like it's probably going to go for the easier answer between the two, but it might be going back here. I can see how one would be others. So, oh, it is going for Darlington. There you go. It's not a well-worded question. So there you go. We'll do a couple more here, and then we'll probably wrap up here in a little bit. Built by the aliens like the pyramids. Okay. All right, let's do another roll.
Move to any highlighted tile.
Let's do another roll.
Take another turn.
Move to any highlighted tile.
There we go.
Answer this question correctly. You'll earn a wedge.
That's right. Yeah, good day for Penske. Jude Fernandez. Very true. It was Darlington. Yeah, it was going with that. It was not worded well. I would say the
What
first
1970s year saw Dover drop other events in favor of two NASCAR 500-mile races?
Ooh.
1975, 1973, 1977, 1971.
It was using the old definition of super speedway. Very true. Very true. What 1970s year saw Dover drop other events in favor of two NASCAR 500-mile races? Was it 1975, 1973, 1977, or 1971? What year saw Dover drop other events in favor of two NASCAR 500-mile races? What year in the 70s? 75, 73, 77, or 71? This reminded me of the Airport franchise, the old Arthur Haley disaster films of the decade. You had Airport 75, you had Airport 77. Airport 75 had Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. and Karen Black, and Airport 77 had John Lemon. Jack Lemmon, excuse me. I think Jimmy Stewart. Jack Lemmon and Jimmy Stewart was in it. Then there was the original Airport that had Bern Lancaster that's really more of a drama than a disaster film. That was in 1970. And then there was a really crappy one in 1979 that had Alan DeLon and George Kennedy. And George Kennedy was in all the airport movies, but in 79, they had that one, and it's a terrible movie. But there you go. 75, 73, 77, or 71. 77 was a good year. Well, there you go. Maybe it's the answer. I see a lot of you picking 77. Let's see. Oh, it's 71. 71, the correct answer.
Click on the tachometer to roll the die.
All right, maybe we'll do one more here and we'll wrap up.
Select a category by moving.
Maybe do this here with NASCAR. Let's see. Then along came airplane. Very true, AUB King. Very true.
Who was the first to drive a factory-backed Winston Cup car to a Daytona Beach win? Marshall Teague, Red Vogt, Tim Flock, Cannonball Baker.
Ah, good question. Good question. I like this. Who was the first to drive a factory-backed Winston Cup car to a Daytona Beach win? Was it Marshall Teague, Red Vogt, Tim Flock, Cannonball Baker? Yeah, we're going way early. Way, way early. All right, I'll let you guys fill in this a bit more here. This will probably be our last question for this evening here. And we'll wrap up with that as well. Guesses for Marshall Teague, Red Vogt, Tim Flock, or Cannonball Baker? Seeing a few for Marshall Teague, seeing some for Tim Flock. Seeing one for Red Vogt. Pretty much across the board here. I mean, Cannonball Baker. Yeah, I got one for Cannonball. There we go. All righty. I think those of you got Marshall Teague. I think you guys are right, because I think this came up in a NASCAR Man history video, if I remember correctly.
Marshall Teague.
Ah, there we go. There we go. All righty. I'll tell you what. Let's exit out of there. And whoop, let me get my screen back here. Okay. So yeah, I'll be very curious how the show looks at the end of it there too. Well, that will about do it for the show here this evening. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We had a little bit of everything here on the program today. Congratulations to Ryan Blaney for pulling off another victory over in Loudon, New Hampshire. It will be a Ross Chastain article later tonight, so you will check that out there in the meantime. In the meantime, the website is, of course, lastcar.info. My Patreon is patreon.com/lastcaronbrock. And my Twitter feed is @lastcaronbrock. Our next show is going to be next Saturday night. We're going to go back under the lights and have another night shift show after the race at Daytona. We will find out who is in the chase and, more importantly, who's going to win with this new aero package that NASCAR is trying out with the super speedways. Is it going to be fuel mileage again? Are we going to get a more competitive race? Is it going to be something closer to what we've traditionally seen at super speedways, or is it going to be, something different? We'll definitely be talking about it. We'll talk about the O'Reilly Series and the Cup Series action there. Yeah, so be sure to tune in Saturday night after the Cup Series ends, and we'll be jumping into that there as well. In the meantime, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I appreciate you all checking in, and I hope you have a wonderful week. I will see you all next time.